Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very excited because I have a great guest joining me at this time. He's an incredible guitarist, songwriter, and vocalist, known for his contributions to progressive metal and post-rock genres, along with bands such as Damn the Machine, Judd, the Fullbliss, and of course his solo music. Please welcome David Judson Clemmons.
All right. Nice to be here.
Thanks so much. It's great to have you on the podcast. I know we got quite a bit to discuss, obviously, with Damn the Machine and everything you have going on. So thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Before we really dive into everything, because I know, as I said, you've been quite busy, I like to start with a fun question, because I'm very curious for you with your musical background and everything. So if you could have dinner with any two musicians throughout history, who would they be?
Regardless of instrument, yeah, I would love to play with Alison Krauss and Neil Young. I would take those two.
Oh wow, that is a great combination. That would be a very cool experience.
A little of the perfection, and then a little bit of the grind. I kind of am always pulling from both sides.
Very good selection with those two. I did want to kind of focus on, because obviously Damn the Machine been very busy. You got some vinyl releases. You got the new album that was released earlier this year. So for focusing on Everything a War, so if anyone's not listened to it, have not checked it out, what can they expect musically and lyrically?
Well, I kind of fit into a strange niche because I've been doing a song, and I'm kind of always hovering in that half famous position, never going up, never really going all the way down as well. So it's for me, you get this kind of long, more of a long-term writing style. If you listen to all the albums kind of back to back, I mean, for me, I have to get away from it a little bit before I figure it out myself. But the thing that sets it apart a little bit, I think, is the length of time and that I've invested in it, and that gives it the little special elements and things that are important to me, maybe that are not noticeable from the first listen, but I think they're in there and they give you a feeling. And so, of course, as you said, progressive. I'm kind of dancing around in the progressive area too, but I've been kind of careful over the years to stay out of one particular genre. I really don't like that. I always grew up listening to people that did stuff kind of for the first time. I'd say Sabbath or whatever. I mean, they weren't in the dark heavy metal scene, they just came out and did what they wanted to do, and then it became what it was. And I try to keep my mindset kind of like that, always thinking what's really deep inside and what should come out. And so you'll have that, but you'll have lighter moments. I mean, you have elements of what people say post rock. I don't even hardly know what that is. Maybe some pop, some layered harmonies, heavy guitars, but no hectic, nothing's in a hurry. I mean, the whole album process was just about when it comes, and then when it's finished, and nothing will be rushed, kind of. And so I think the feeling is warm and relaxed. So I hope you give it a chance, whoever's listening. It's definitely worth it.
Well, for sure. I've checked out the album, and what I really like is the song flow from the set the track listing. It kind of just flows the one song into the next and the next, which I really noticed and really appreciate that. Drones and Satellites, my favorite off Everything a War, but I just like it. It's got a different vibe to it.
That song was kind of funny. It went through a few different writing stages, and we had it finished. It was totally different. And then at some point I was playing around with it at home, detuned acoustic, and I was like, I think there's a little bit more, something more here. And my guys were kind of come on, Dave, we got this one, come on, this one's in the box, I'm like, come on. And it was almost like a little, one of those band room moments where there was a little bit of tension. And I'm like, come on. And then we got the chorus straight, and then it was exploding, and everybody was really happy. And I think that's one of those songs where you hear that it's where the fuck is this guy coming from? because it's got this darkness, but at the same time, it's just like a pop song without criticizing it or complimenting it. It's got this accessibility that in some of my stuff maybe you would say is missing, but that's the thing that I like about that song as well. Is that it seems easy to get into.
It's kind of just different in the sense that, like, yeah, it's got, like, you know, as you're talking, like, with like pop, but also like a darker tone to it, but also very accessible, very easy to listen to. But that one really kind of stood out to me. So I'm kind of curious with that process. What was kind of like the biggest change that was made from the original version to what is released on the album?
Yeah, we it kind of hung the whole time. It had like this shuffle beat, and we had all the changes. That was all there, but it was almost like halftime compared to what it is now, with like a drum shuffle the whole way, and we didn't have a real. The chorus was more of a pushing, almost like an AC/DC push, like a doosh, doosh, doosh. And then what I really like is that we came with this double time chorus, and that's what I like the most. And then inside of that, we were able to refine the verses and the C section and all of that, and we were able to kind of fine tune everything a little bit more, and everything seemed to have more purpose, right? The old version's definitely cool. It had all the same vocal melodies and all of that, but the music was really different, the chorus. So that would be the major change. That's what kind of pushed it over the edge.
All right. Well, I really enjoy it. Again, that's my favorite off the album.
Yeah,
but it's just so
great.
cool.
I'm surprised actually, but I'm happy to hear it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, it just, again, just kind of stood out to me, and it's just cool to hear kind of how the song progressed and changed, you know, from, you know, beginning to what has been released on the album. It just, I like hearing those stories of how things kind of, you know, change over time.
Yeah, that's nice. That's fun. I love that part more than any other part. I love the creating part. Definitely.
So, kind of curious, so kind of going along with, like, you know, the writing and recording process, like, do you like write and record songs with like the live performance side in mind?
Not so much. It's been again, I always go back to that point because I'm getting up there now. I'm 58, right? So for those over many generations, and it's kind of like a process, like everybody, you know, it's the same cliches. People say the songs exist already. You just reach up in the air, and if you're lucky, you grab one, and all of that bullshit. I mean, it's really it's kind of like that, I think, in the end, because like how I communicate with my members when we're working stuff out. That I notice that it's kind of funny, because when we're trying to figure out what the next part is or something like that, and even when I'm by myself, the thought and it comes out verbally also is always like, where does it want to go, right? And so the song is already an it before it's even finished. And so you have like you know, the end of one part is kind of like giving you a little clue of what would be good to do afterwards. And for me, my whole life, what I've always tried to do is like, okay, like you're always almost at a crossroads. You've got the easy way, and then you've got the other way that's maybe a little bit more masked. You know, you have to kind of work to find it a little bit more. And so you don't take the obvious one, you take the one it fits, but it has a common thread, but yet you have not, you know, went full pop AOR or whatever. Give it a little element, like I always say, the fingerprint. You know, everyone has their own fingerprint. We're all different, and you try to find that, isolate it, and use it in all of these changes. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the process. A lot of stuff I work out. I think it's really important, whether you're playing, you know, prog rock or whatever, death metal, whatever. If you're writing songs with vocals and melodies, then I think it's absolutely important that you're able to play the song on an acoustic guitar, you know, from beginning to end with all the parts and all of that. I think that's important. And I think if the song gives you trouble somewhere, it's almost like a tester, like a little test that you can do on your songs before you're finished. It should work. Even the instrumental parts, you should be able to strum the part, and it should feel good. And I think that's also part of the process. Of course, for instrumental bands or whatever, that may be something different. But for my direction, I do that, and that's also like a very, very vital element in my writing process.
Oh, so that's very cool and very interesting. So, like, you know, when you're talking about like, you know, playing acoustic, so like when you're going through that, like for, you know, these songs, did you test all those through like, you know, playing acoustic guitar?
Yeah, absolutely. And you might not even be able to grasp it, but the first song, the most progressive of all, "Learn to Resist," I just did a short tour back in May, a solo tour where me and my '70s guild, and I play sometimes 3-4 hours. It depends on the situation, but I was doing a support tour, so I was playing about 45 minutes, and I play that song. I also play "Learn to Resist," and it gets heavy and comes down. I detune, and the guitar is really loud in the PA, and so you have the bass, and you have everything that you need if you know how to play with the steel string acoustic through a loud PA, which I really like that. It's one of my most favorite things to do. And so yeah, every single song definitely I went through the grinder, yeah, for sure, and became different afterwards. Saw changes because exactly like I said, I would get to a part, and then the energy's gone, and then it's like something has to happen, and that's kind of how that drones and satellites, how that happened, because I was kind of like it was just hitting a snag, as my grandmother would say, and so I put it through the tester, and I came up with the new part, and all that was done on the acoustic, and then brought to the practice room afterwards.
Very cool. I like you know about hearing about the process and like how you know like you kind of test things and all of that. I just think it's very cool. So I really appreciate you sharing because that was just you know just very unique.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's appreciated because it's an interesting thing to me, but it's putting that into words, trying to put these kind of thoughts and actions into words is funny, because it's like being in a band room with the guys, and it's like more like a boo 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 boo, and everybody's making all these sounds and stuff, and it's really like a private language that we have, and it's nice when somebody else kind of gets it. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So I kind of did want to ask because you were talking about like earlier about not forcing things and you know kind of just letting it progress and see where it takes you. So I'm kind of curious. So like, do you ever experience like writer's block when you're like going through the process, and like how do you overcome it?
Man, you know, and I don't want to talk too much about that because I think I've been lucky in that department, but I actually have the opposite of that. I read an interview about the singer from the National that he had writer's block when they were trying to do a new album, and he got lyrics for like one song or something. I was reading the interview and I'm like, how the fuck can that happen? Because I'm at the point now, and again, I don't want to jinx myself because I don't want to say I'm super talented. I want to continuously say I'm super lucky, and I'm just along for the ride, and I really appreciate every single ounce of inspiration that's been thrown my way, and whether it's self-built or from the cosmos. But I really would say that I have never experienced that, and I have multiple projects, because every time I touch my instrument, I have to have a recorder close to me, because something's coming up, and I have to capture it, and that's kind of like where these other bands, the Fullbliss and Judd and now my solo stuff, and came from, is because I found myself with so much material that I really couldn't manage it, and so I started to have like these different branches coming out, and it's proved to be very helpful, actually, to help me sort my the hectic that's here that I don't want to have on the outside. Yeah, and yeah, man. So I don't know. I hope that helps. If that helps, that was an answer.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm very glad to hear that you know with your writing process that you know it is productive, and you know things happen when you record or write or edit everything. So hopefully that process continues as it is
Yeah.
with everything. As I mentioned, and as you mentioned, all the different projects you're in, along with your solo work. Like, do you approach each one differently or relatively the same?
Kind of the same, and then the aforementioned kind of steps up and says, I don't really feel comfortable here, so I want to be over here. And so then I've got like different buckets where I have different ideas and all of that kind of stuff. And then I have at the moment, to speak a teeny little bit against that, the last years I felt like I was giving too much inconsistency. I would say, when I say the last years, I mean like the last 15 years. And so I did try to refine a little bit and try to stick to kind of one thing. Like I tried to stick to releasing albums under my own name. And that got, I would say, a bit more precise around 2020, when 2019, 2020, I released an album called Tribe and Throne. And then since then, I've released 3 in a row under my own name, all sharing like a dark progressive, each one different, but in this direction, right? And so I kind of, in a way, the other stuff that I've been coming up with, I kind of like just kind of I've been putting them in these buckets and just kind of letting them sit there, and maybe they come back in the next years. But I kind of had the feeling that I should maybe, in order of not confusing people too much, stick to one direction. And then inside of that is where during the lockdown bullshit that everybody was dealing with, I found myself with a little bit of time on my hands. And so inside of this phase since 2020, I dipped back into the cassettes, the demo cassettes, and I thought, what can I do with my time now? And that's where the kind of segueing into the next questions probably, but that's the way that I kind of feathered that into my solo releases, because it was everything kind of a little bit more in the progressive pot, everything was kind of in this era and then genre, so I could work easier with promotion and all that kind of stuff. It made it a bit easier for everybody. And that's kind of what I've been doing lately as far as the different aspects of my writing.
Very cool with all of that. Yes, there are a few follow-up questions, and then I do got to talk about a few other aspects as well. But so I'm kind of curious. So like, what is like your like recording? You're talking about cassettes and all of that. So like, how do you like demo a song? I'm very curious.
Well, I wish we were still doing cassettes, because I really like that. In fact, I have like a jam box Ghetto Blaster, if you can still say Ghetto Blaster. I found on the street and I fixed it. I took forever. I was like looking at YouTube videos and stuff, and I finally figured it out and got it to work again, because I really love just having a big chunky jam box, and you just, when you got an idea, bam, and then it goes, and then and if you don't have a tape, then you grab a Motley Crue tape or something and put some tape over it and record your stuff over that, and then later you're like, oh man, why'd I record over my Motley Crue tape, and it's kind of like user friendly, and then but honestly, it's not working like that anymore, and so it's everybody's grabbing their phones, trying to capture it on the phone. Just if I have a riff or something that's a bit confusing, I'm not able to reproduce maybe that easily, then I'll actually film my fingers, film the parts. In our practice room, we've got a really good Logic 8-track setup, so we're able to record and demo everything multi-track, so we can even work with it, and I can cut and paste and stuff if I feel like I need to move the song arrangement around, because we practice in Berlin, and I live a bit outside of Berlin in the north, in an area called Brandenburg. I don't know if you know anything at all about Germany, but
unfortunately, not too much about Germany.
And so the practice room's a bit far away, and so I can kind of cut and paste at home on my studio at home. And that's how we do it, and we really do it. And then this time we went straight in the studio. We did 2 sessions, and there we had it's actually an analog studio with a Neve desk here in Berlin, really old gear, and state of the art as well. Of course, they have everything. But actually, we went in. We were planning to record the 2-inch, but this time we decided we would save the time that you need recording to tape machine. And we would stick to hard drive with 3 safety backups, And so we did it all to the hard drive, but with great processors through the Neve, so through the console. So we have definitely used the most analog stuff we could, and so we did that. And then the mix was done also digital, and then the mastering as well. And yeah, it never hit tape. Yeah, and so as much as I love tape, we did the whole process digitally from practice all the way to release.
Oh, very cool. Very, very cool thought. Yeah, definitely. Obviously digital is kind of, it's definitely kind of the more preferred, more, easier to access, kind of, for recording, but it is always cool. I always appreciate if, if artists do like, on tape and then get it. But with that, obviously very important. That's why triple backing up is very important for digital.
Yeah, I managed to delete one hard drive myself. I thought I was reformatting a USB stick, and the other drive was in my computer, and I just clicked reformat. And I tell you, the fastest way to delete a hard drive, if you want to do it, just reformat it. It's gone, fucking gone. And luckily, the studio still had theirs, and so I really did it. Yeah, so classic Dave.
Wow. Well, I'm glad. That's why other backups are important, and it worked out. But that could have been a very bad situation.
Yeah, really. It was for a Judd album. It was in 2016 or something, 2015. Don't know, but definitely my heart. Yeah, I don't know where my heart went, but it was definitely out of my body for a few seconds. Yeah,
for sure. Wow. All right, so I got one more question about recording, and then I do want to talk about the vinyl release for Damn Machine. But I'm curious, so when you're recording, do you have a preferred guitar that you use?
Yeah, definitely. And that's really funny because I have a bunch of guitars. Over the years, I've had different guitars, expensive, cheap, everything. And the one guitar that I always use now is and everyone has seen it who's seen me live because I've been playing it since '94 live. It's when I was living in Los Angeles still, or actually Santa Monica, Venice Beach. I just finished Damn the Machine. We had decided to give ourselves put it on ice, however that would work out. And I had some time on my hands between what I was going to do. And there was a store right there in Santa Monica, and I can't remember what it was called. I think it was Santa Monica Music, actually. And I would just go in there and look around like a little teenager and wanting to just buy shit and, go home and screw it together, And I really did. And they had like some parts there. They had a black Telly body, and I think it was Mighty Might or something like that. And they had a Strat neck. And it was also, I think, a Mighty Might or Warmouth or something like that, just a Fender Strat neck. And I said, okay, give me those. And I put it together, and I put a Telly bridge on it, Telly single coil in the back. And then for my 68 Les Paul that I unfortunately sold, I still had a humbucker, a deluxe humbucker, and I put that in the front. And man, that was supposed to be just a little thing I was doing just for fun in the garage while I was, whatever, not getting drunk or something like that. And the more and more I played it, I realized, fuck, this guitar always sounds good. And no matter what situation is, I play it live through my JMP Marshall. I can throw it on the stage if I want. I can just throw it down. I've done it multiple times, and it just lies there and screams. It's perfect. It's been on most every album since then, since the 90s. And I play it heavy, although it's a single coil Telly, and it's just always perfect clean sound. It's just stays in tune. And I don't know why. It's just these parts I bought at the store. And I mean, I have, 60s Gretsch. I have all these other guitars, and I always go back to this one. So good question. They call it the Judocaster, by the way. That's my fans and friends call it the Judocaster.
That is an awesome name, and it sounds so cool. And it was, you put it together. You bought the part, you put it together.
Yeah, I really did. But I mean, I didn't build it. I mean, it's parts. Yeah. You screw it together. But I did a little bit, a little bit of routing or something. But nothing crazy. I'm not a guitar builder, that's for sure.
No, but you bought the parts to assemble it, which is, I think, is even cooler as well with it. but great name, and it sounds like a very cool guitar. And obviously, I've heard it on the albums, and it does have a uniqueness of the sound to it.
Yeah, it's I'm back in my studio now, and it's in my house because I don't like to leave my good stuff here in the studio because it gets cold at night, and so I can't show you.
All good, all good. But I did want to talk about, so coming up in October, you have the vinyl release for the last 3 Dan Machine albums. We had Day One, The Last Man, and Everything a War will be released on vinyl in October. So I'm kind of curious, so like, how did the vinyl release for these albums come about?
Yeah, well, I touched a little bit on that with the with that lockdown and all of that with the bullshit, but I don't like to talk about that anymore because everybody moved on, and I'm happy we have. But and so try to make that short is that these albums were already they were the first 2, Day One and The Last Man, were both made from cassette demos that I was really lucky to still have in my possession, and also that I had the transferring. I don't know how we did it, but we got that done really well and mastered it, and so the quality is really, I mean, for what it is, it's really from a cassette that's 30 years old. So yeah, 30 plus years old. So we got lucky. I got them done, did all that myself. I really just said, okay, I waited long enough for somebody else to do it. I'm going to do it myself. I called Chris Poland, who we're in touch often, and I wasn't sure how he was going to react, and I just asked him. I said, hey, Chris, man, I think I've waited. We've waited long enough. I mean, this shit's going to like rot if we don't do something with it. And he really said, Dave, I trust you completely, man. You have the full. You have my full support. Do whatever you want. And so I was like, what? I was like, great, here we go. So then I did a little PayPal test, made sure everybody had a PayPal account, just to show the guys, okay, if we go plus, I'm going to make sure everybody's covered. And then I got all the artwork done here, came up with stuff, showed, and literally I showed them finished artwork, and nobody said, everybody loved it. Course, so that I had no red tape anywhere. I was really happy. Got all that done, and then in between released a couple albums of my own. And so long story short, where we're at now, so now we're at 2025. These albums were already done and produced. However, in my small friend circle and fan circle, I mean, it only went so far, right? And so Dan Volohoff from Discipline PR and me have been in communication for over a year now. And basically, he just keeps coming back to me with the same point. He's like, Dave, you got to let us get our hands on this and do our work because it deserves to be heard and seen by more people. And you're only, you're limited. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but all of that, there's reasons why you can't take something farther, whether it's financial or just whatever. And so that's kind of like what helped push it to the next level now, and why we have a release date for the vinyl, because what we have now is the debut LP, which is new to the mix, because that we never introduced because that was long released, by the label A&M back in the day on CD. Now it's been 30 plus years, nobody moved on it, and so I took over the risk and the right to release that on my own, and so I've remastered the original recordings, recreated all the artwork. Actually, the artwork's all new. We had to recreate it completely, and then combined with Everything a War, which everything is kind of like all now coming to a head all at the same time. And that gave Dan, I guess, the kind of like the challenge of, okay, what should we do? And at the same time, he seemed to already know what we should do. He says we should combine all 4 of these LPs into one half re-release kind of concept, so that we can introduce that to people as something special as it is. And that kind of, it's difficult to explain kind of the strategy because it's his strategy, but he wanted me basically to agree to a release date and then stop the shipments to fans and all that, so that we have kind of like we're building up to a new point. And so we've done all that. It kind of all worked out really, really good because we had already shipped out some of the first pressing debuts, and we had a strange glitch on the side A, right? And nobody's talked about this because it wasn't an issue. Well, some players play it perfectly. Some players had some skips. And so then we had to stop the shipping anyway, and then offer everybody corrected copies. And so we needed time for that. And so all of these factors kind of came together, and the Beavis and Butthead light, I guess, is going on with Dan and everybody, and me as well. Like, what can we do to make this into something? And that's where we arrived at October 3rd, release date for LPs. We'll have the corrected LPs. We added a color now for the debut. We have now purple. So we have 3 different colors: transparent blue, turquoise, and purple. And that, of course, it's a lot of information, but it is actually a lot of music and a lot of action. And so that's where we're at. And I mean, it comes down to this music. I mean, the music's insanely incredible and prophetic. I'm sorry, I've been living in Germany for 25 years, and so my English is like dodgy. Sometimes I'm go for a word and it just doesn't come. To me, when you listen to Damn the Machine debut from 1993, written in 91 and 92, actually, and then you listen to Everything a War, which is written in 24 and 25, and those albums to me fit together like just like a hand in a glove. I mean, it's like totally cool. Not because I'm involved with both of them, but just somehow stylistically they feel really that they're really driving on the same road. And so I love it. And anyway, that definitely it's hard for me to shorten that, but I hope that I touched your question with an answer somehow.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Very cool to hear about where you guys have been with the process, and coming up obviously with the release date in October as well. All of that goes well, but what you're saying with the debut album and then the newest album, I definitely, listening to them, it has like that same kind of, I don't know, I don't know how to exactly describe it, but they do fit together very well. They have that same kind of aesthetic and vibe to them.
Yeah, cool. Although very different. I mean, they're so different, like musically, but it's more of an unwritten similarity that you can't really put your finger on. Yeah.
Exactly. So now, as we're closing out this interview, so like, what's kind of the rest of 2025 looking like for you and all your projects?
The Damn the Machine project, of course, is more of a long-range thing. We've talked a lot about making new music, and so that's always a possibility, and it's definitely on the table. Coming together is the most difficult part, but everybody's into it, which is great. I think I would shed a few tough guy tears if we all got in the same room together one day. So I hope that will come to light, right? But in the more immediate future and the more realistic future, what's really happening is that my live lineup, we have some shows being put together right now here based from Berlin, where we are based. And so we have a few shows already confirmed in Berlin and in a few other cities where we're going to be traveling and performing with what I call my big band, because sometimes I play with a small group, a bigger group, and so we have some strings and stuff, which is incredible. So lucky to have that. That's what's happening. Summer's over. I had a great summer. I'm going. I actually work as a guitar teacher full time. Every day I actually just play guitar all day but it's for a real music school here in Germany and near Berlin where I live. And I'll be going back, and I have about 50 students, mostly school children, and I really love it. And it's the best job I've ever had. And I'm actually really looking forward to go back, and I actually fit my touring around the job, kind of not the other way around, right? And that's actually the most stuff that's going on right now. So we're going to be practicing to get ready for these shows, and then of course the physical aspect of all of this, the shipping and all of that. I've already been very busy with managing LP productions and storage, how to store all of this, and ready to ship out, because I'm also shipping to like shops and stuff, not just to individual fans, and kind of preparing all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's it, man. Trying to stay healthy.
All very good, all great, important things with everything. So I hope the rest of the year goes very well. I'll leave some links for everything in the description of this podcast. But David, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with me.
It was an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks a lot.
Of course. For David Judson Clemmons, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.